This pre-application information session is for the OVW fiscal year 2024 Grants to Indian Tribal Governments Program, commonly referred to as the Tribal Governments Program, as well as the Tribal Governments Program Strengthening Tribal Advocacy Response Track, or Tribal Governments START. This solicitation was posted on or about January 29th, 2024. It is recommended that you have the solicitation with you as you view this pre-application information session. This year, the Tribal Governments Program is posting two separate solicitations, the Tribal Governments Program and the Tribal Governments START Program, which is for tribal governments or their designee who have never or not recently received funding through the Tribal Governments Program. The Tribal Governments START is focused on capacity building early in the project period and will provide additional training, technical assistance, and support to award recipients looking to build capacity related to serving victims and holding offenders accountable. Tribal Governments START grantees will engage in a comprehensive assessment process that identifies the strengths and gaps of their community's responses to domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, stalking, and sex trafficking. Following the assessment, a customized project implementation plan will be developed in consultation with an OVW designated technical assistance provider. Tribes or tribal designees that may be eligible and are interested in the START capacity building track should review and consider applying under this solicitation. The second solicitation is the standard Grants to Indian Tribal Governments Program solicitation. Applicants that apply to both the Tribal Governments and Tribal Governments START will only receive one award, either through Tribal Governments or Tribal Governments START. All open OVW solicitations can be found on the OVW Open Solicitations page. If you are unsure which solicitation best fits your needs and current capacity, please join our weekly office hours offered every Wednesday from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The registration link for these sessions can be found in both solicitations. The most important thing you must do before applying is read the solicitation in its entirety. You can find the solicitations along with other valuable resources on OVW's website. Application submissions in response to this solicitation will be done through a two-step process. Applicants will submit the SF-424 and SF-LLL in grants.gov and submit the full application in the Justice Grants System, referred to as Just Grants. Potential applicants must have active SAM and grants.gov accounts to be able to apply for this solicitation. Therefore, applicants that have never applied for federal funding before should immediately begin the SAM registration process. Applicants that have previously received federal funds should confirm their SAM registration is active and up to date at least 3 weeks before the application's grants.gov due date. Applicants must submit the SF-424 and SF-LLL in grants.gov by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. The full application package is due in Just Grants by 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, April 25th, 2024. Minimally, you should watch the application submission training video and download the application submission job aid from the Just Grants website to familiarize yourself with the application process. Additionally, DOJ is hosting virtual Q&A sessions on application mechanics, submitting an application. You can register for one or more of the virtual Q&A sessions from the Just Grants training page, linked here, or by going to the main Just Grants website. Click on Trainings, and then click on Virtual Q&A. The OVW Tribal Governments Program and Tribal Governments Start have 12 statutory purpose areas designed to enhance tribal responses to domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, stalking, and sex trafficking to increase victim safety and ensure offender accountability. You can find the complete statutory language for the 12 purpose areas on pages 5 and 6 of the solicitations. Activities supported by this program are determined by statute, federal regulations, and OVW policies. If an applicant receives an award, the funded project is bound by this solicitation, the DOJ financial guide, including updates to the financial guide after an award is made, the solicitation companion guide, and the conditions of the award. The Tribal Governments Program is the largest OVW tribal-specific program. Currently, we have nearly 200 tribes and tribal organizations funded through this program, and our annual appropriation is approximately $51 million. The program is funded by statutory set-asides from 7 OVW grant programs: STOP, Improving Criminal Justice Responses; Rural, Legal Assistance for Victims; Transitional Housing; Consolidated Youth; and Justice for Families. Tribes and tribal designees use this funding to support a broad range of activities to ensure victims find safety, justice, and healing, and offenders are held accountable for their crimes. Many tribes are developing and operating culturally informed projects, such as shelter programs, dedicated law enforcement, courts, probation, or prosecution units, legal services for survivors, batterers intervention programming, supervised visitation and exchange programs, prevention and community education campaigns, SANE or SART programs, development and implementation of tribal codes and policies, law enforcement response protocols, and training for missing or murdered Indigenous persons cases, and so much more. Here you see some examples of project types that may be funded through the Tribal Governments Program. This is by no means a comprehensive list of all the activities proposals could include. Some grantees choose to intensely focus their project efforts in one specific area of their tribal government response, and others include activities which touch multiple parts of their tribal government structure to strategically build capacity to address these crimes. You should assess your current systems and propose your project depending on your tribe's needs. OVW does not fund activities that jeopardize victim safety, that deter or prevent physical or emotional healing for victims, or that allow offenders to escape responsibility for their actions. Applications that propose any such activities may receive a deduction in points during the review process, or may be eliminated from consideration entirely. Information on activities that compromise victim safety and recovery, or that undermine offender accountability, may be found in the Solicitation Companion Guide. Please take the time to review the full list in the Solicitation Companion Guide on the OVW website so that you are not including any of these activities in your proposal or your project, should it be funded. Research projects are out of scope and will not be funded. However, You can include up to 3% of the total proposal budget to support internal project evaluation costs. Also, grant funds may not be used to directly address child abuse, child endangerment, other family violence issues, such as violence perpetrated by a child against a parent or by a sibling against another sibling, or neglect or exploitation. These grant funds may not be used to provide substance abuse treatment services, nor may they be used for education and prevention activities that are not specifically related to domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking, and or stalking. This means prevention and education activities on topics such as sexual harassment, bullying, or character building are out of scope and unallowable. Criminal representation of victims charged with crimes is also out of scope, except for representation in post-conviction relief proceedings with respect to the conviction of a victim relating to or arising from domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or sex trafficking victimization of the victim. Some activities are allowable, but only with prior specific approval. This includes surveys and minor renovations. Minor renovations, including such things as painting, carpeting, or installing lighting, can be included in the proposal budget. However, applicants should be aware that in addition to obtaining OVW approval to use grant funds to support the renovations, recipients must follow all necessary steps to ensure that funded renovations are in compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, and related laws, which may be time-consuming and may include public notice and consultation. All awards will be made as grants, and there is no match required. OVW has the discretion to award grants for greater or lesser amounts than requested, and to negotiate the scope of work and budget with applicants prior to awarding a grant. Also, OVW has the discretion to make awards for greater or lesser lengths of time and will negotiate any project activity modifications needed as a result of changes to the estimated award period if necessary. OVW estimates that it will make 60 awards for an estimated $51 million. For the FY 2024 Tribal Governments Program, this program will accept applications from two types of applicants: new and continuation. New applicants are those that have never received funding through the OVW Tribal Governments Program, or those who may have never received funding through the program before, but the most recent award closed before April 30th, 2023. This program typically makes awards in the range of $500,000 to $1,200,000 for a 36-month project period. Continuation applicants are those that are current Tribal Governments Program grantees that received a new 36-month award in fiscal year 2021. These grantees have the option to apply non-competitively for up to an additional $500,000 to $1,200,000 and an additional 24 months to continue the current project. Importantly, current grantees with a substantial amount of unobligated funds remaining, 50% or more of the current award, as of March 31st, 2024, without adequate justification, may not be considered for funding or may receive a reduced award amount if selected for funding in FY 2024. In FY 2024, the OVW Tribal Governments Program has a separate capacity building solicitation, Tribal Governments Start. This program typically makes awards in the range of $500,000 to $1,200,000 for a 36-month project period. OVW has the discretion to make awards for greater or lesser amounts than requested and to negotiate the scope of work and budget with applicants. Eligibility for this program is limited to Indian tribal governments, tribal designees, and tribal consortiums. Each of these terms are defined in the solicitation, and you should take the time to ensure your tribe or organization meets the definition for the entity type you are applying as. Applications received from ineligible entity types will not be considered for funding. All applicants must confirm the proposal was developed in consultation with a qualified partner and list the qualified partner as well as the point of contact in the summary data sheet submitted as a web form in Just Grants. A qualified partner is a nonprofit, non-governmental Indian Victim Services Program or a tribal domestic violence or sexual assault coalition, or an advisory committee that includes women and survivors from the community to be served by the proposed project. Importantly, tribal governments with a domestic violence or sexual assault program must identify a qualified partner in their summary data sheet, and the qualified partner cannot be the tribal government's domestic violence or sexual assault program. For all applicants that intend to address Purpose Area Number 8 to provide legal services for victims in the proposed project, the delivery of legal assistance certification must be submitted for an award to be made. The certification must be in writing, and the specific language for the certifications can be found on page 13 of the solicitation. For applicants that are applying as a tribal designee or a tribal consortium only, a tribal designee or consortium applicant must include with its application a tribal resolution or other documents demonstrating authority to apply from each tribe or tribal consortium member. The tribal resolution or equivalent documentation must state that the applicant is authorized to submit an application on behalf of the tribe. It must be current, which means it must be developed within the open period of the solicitation, and it must be signed by the authorized representatives from the applicant organization and tribe or tribes. Applicants that receive funding through this program will be required to engage with certain activities post-award. All grantees must participate in OVW-sponsored training and technical assistance, submitting semi-annual performance reports, and making advanced determinations of individuals' suitability to interact with minors. Additionally, applicants applying for the Tribal Government START program must engage with OVW technical assistance providers to complete an assessment and project plan early in the project period. Also, at the end of this 36-month award period, applicants that would like to request an additional 24 months of project funding will be required to participate in technical assistance to assess the current project's progress and prepare to submit applications for the 24-month continuation funding. On this slide, we see the application documents that will comprise a complete application. It is the responsibility of the applicant to ensure that a complete application is submitted by the deadline. Applicants should anticipate that failure to submit an application that contains all of the application components will negatively affect the review of the application and may result in the application not being considered for funding. Some application documentation will be automatically generated as a web-based form during the online application processes. Some documents will be pre-populated web-based form based on data previously entered by the applicant as a part of the SAM and grants.gov registration process. Prior to submitting the application, you should carefully review this data for accuracy. Then other documents will be prepared outside of the online system as Word, Excel, PDF, or text documents, and then uploaded to the application in JustGrants as an attachment. In the next few slides, we will walk through the application components in the order they appear in the solicitation. The first step will be in grants.gov. Here you will complete the web-based SF-424 and the disclosure of lobbying activities, which is also known as the SF-LLL form. Both forms are generated when the application is initiated. Just a couple points for these. First, the amount entered in the estimated funding box should match the amount of federal funding requested in the budget section of the application later on. Also, when you are identifying the authorized representative, this person must be an individual that has the authority to accept grant awards on behalf of the tribe. Some tribes' laws or policies limit this authority to only the highest elected official of the governing body of the tribe, while other tribes have this authority vested in a staff position, such as the chief financial officer or grant writer. Please make sure whomever you put as the authorized representative has the legal authority under your tribal organizational structure to accept the award if one is made. The grants.gov SF-424 and SF-LLL must be submitted no later than Wednesday, April 24th, 2024 at 11:59 Eastern Time. To be clear, there will be a submit button in grants.gov for these two web-based forms that applicants must select to initiate the application in JustGrants. After submitting these two forms in grants.gov, the applicant will receive an email notification to complete the rest of the application over in JustGrants. The communication between grants.gov, JustGrants, and the applicant is not immediate. It can take 24 hours or more for grants.gov to communicate to JustGrants, so applicants should not expect an immediate email. If the applicant is a new user in JustGrants, the email will include instructions on how to register with JustGrants. To continue with the application process, you will follow the instructions in the email and log into JustGrants. The JustGrants 424 and General Agency Information web forms will be pre-populated based on the information you entered into grants.gov. You will need to confirm the information that transferred over from grants.gov is accurate prior to proceeding through the remainder of the application. Before we get into the meat of the proposal and the application submission in JustGrants, a few tips. In preparing the documents that will be attached to the application in JustGrants, all documents that will be uploaded must be in Microsoft Word, a PDF, Excel, or text document format. Also, using the sample templates and forms when provided will make your job easier. You can find sample templates for the current and pending OVW projects, current and pending non-OVW federal grants to do the same or similar work, and the letter of non-supplanting, as well as the confidentiality acknowledgement form on the OVW website. In addition, for the FY24 Tribal Governments Program and Tribal Governments Start narratives, OVW has provided a sample narrative that can be completed and uploaded as the proposal narrative. The sample narrative for each solicitation can be found on the OVW Resources for Applicants page under the Tribal Governments Program section. If you choose not to use the sample narratives when writing the proposal narrative, use headings and subheadings that correspond to the sections of the narrative as outlined in the solicitation. And don't forget to include page numbers on each page of the narrative. Please do not combine multiple application components into one file. For example, you wouldn't combine the narrative, the document demonstrating authority to apply, the current and pending applications table, and job descriptions into one attachment because they will be uploaded into different sections during the Just Grants application process. Also, pay attention to the technical requirements section of the solicitation. Failure to do so can result in points being deducted from your application score and can very well be the difference between receiving funding and not. Any tables or charts included in the application do not have to be double-spaced or 12.5. However, you must make sure the font size is not so small that it is difficult to read for the peer reviewers. You can draft your responses that you plan to later enter into the web-based budget, abstract, pre-award risk assessment, and other online forms in a Word document. However, you should clean the text before pasting directly into the text box, requesting that data in Just Grants. You can do this by first pasting your text into Notepad or other unformatted documents, then copying from Notepad and pasting into the text box in Just Grants. File names for attachments should be descriptive, short, and unique. Just Grants will reject attachments with names that are too long or that it recognizes from somewhere else within the application. Here you can see some examples of file names that could be acceptable. If you have questions about the program's eligibility requirements, allowable activities, application content, or application submission requirements, please email or join our weekly office hours for this program to speak live with OVW staff. Contact information and instructions on how to join the office hours are on the last slide of this presentation, as well as in both solicitations. OVW staff will not be able to help you write your application, but can answer technical questions, including whether or not specific activities are allowable under the grant program. And finally, give yourself plenty of time to complete the entry of the application, especially if this is your first time submitting an application in Just Grants. If you experience issues with the submission, reach out to our Just Grants support desk for assistance. Their contact information is on the last slide. The proposal abstract is a short summary of the proposal. It'll be entered into a text field in Just Grants and does not have to be double-spaced in the text box. It is not scored, but will be used throughout the application review process. The proposal narrative is worth 90 points total. This application component will be prepared as a PDF, Word, or text document, then attached in Just Grants. For fiscal year 24 Tribal Governments Program and Tribal Governments Start applicants, OVW has prepared a Tribal Governments and Tribal Governments Start narrative sample. It is very important that you use the proposal narrative sample that aligns with the solicitation that you are applying for. Both the standard narrative and sample narratives for both solicitations include 3 required sections: the purpose of the proposal, the what will be done section, and the who will implement section. If you decide not to use the proposal narrative sample, use the headers and section titles provided and page numbers. Make sure to respond to each item in the section as it appears, even if you feel like you have answered the same question elsewhere in the application. Reviewers will score each section independently and cannot use information found in one section to satisfy information required in another section. Address each of the items listed. If something does not apply or you do not have the data requested, state that and provide an explanation. When discussing the purpose of the proposal and your community served, use local data and anecdotal evidence when available. The peer reviewers are subject matter experts and are very familiar with what the national statistics say about domestic violence in tribal communities. What they don't know is what is happening in your community. Tell your story. Now we will walk through each piece of the proposal narrative. The purpose of the proposal section is worth 15 points for tribal governments program applications and 60 points for tribal government start proposals. For TGP applications, state if this application is for a new 36-month project or for a non-competitive continuation 24-month project. Describe the communities in the service area, including but not limited to traditionally underserved populations, such as communities of color, people with disabilities, people who are deaf or hard of hearing, persons with limited English proficiency, older adults, and LGBTQ+ communities. Provide an explanation for the selected purpose areas. Explanations may include, but are not limited to, how the proposed project is responding to a current or emerging need, how the project is complementing other services, how the project is filling service gaps, how the project is improving services for victims, etc. For tribal government start applications, describe the communities in the service area, including but not limited to traditionally underserved populations, such as communities of color, people with disabilities, people who are deaf or hard of hearing, persons with limited English proficiency, older adults, and LGBTQ+ communities. Describe the services currently offered, if any, for victims of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking, or stalking in the proposed service area. This includes all services provided by tribal governments, nonprofits, or others. Identify the statutory purpose areas the applicant is proposing to address. Then lastly, provide an explanation for the selected areas. Explanations may include, but are not limited to, how the proposed project is responding to a current or emerging need, how the project is complementing other services, how the project is filling service gaps, and how the project is improving services for victims. The what will be done section is worth 60 points for tribal governments applicants and 15 points for tribal government start applicants. Tribal governments applicants must state the project goals and related activities. Include the project timeline listed by year, then month or quarter, and list the staff or partners responsible for each activity. State whether the proposed project will establish new programming and/or expand existing programming. Describe how the proposed project will address the unique needs of the traditionally underserved populations identified in the purpose of the proposal section as it relates to the selected purpose area. If applicable, describe how the proposed project will address the OVW priority area, strengthen efforts to prevent and end sexual assault, including victim services and civil and criminal justice responses. Describe how the proposed project will improve accessibility for people with disabilities and people who are deaf or hard of hearing. Describe how the proposed project will improve accessibility for people with limited English proficiency. And describe how survivors and other people with relevant lived experiences have helped formulate and or will be involved in shaping and implementing the project. Tribal governments start applicants must briefly describe in 1 to 3 sentences any services or projects that the applicant would like to implement to support victim safety and or offender accountability. They need to state whether the proposed services or projects will establish new programming and or expand existing programming in the areas of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking, or stalking. If applicable, describe how the proposed project will address the OVW priority area, strengthen efforts to prevent and end sexual assault, including victim services and civil and criminal justice responses. Here we are going to talk about who will implement the project that is being proposed. Tribal governments applicants must identify the key people and organizations, including project partners involved in the proposed project. Provide their position title, percentage of time allocated to the project, responsibilities, and qualifications. Tribal government start applicants must identify the agency, office, or department of the tribal government or designee that will manage the program, if known at this time. If staff have been identified, please provide their name, position title, percentage of time or effort, summary of responsibilities, and qualifications. The budget worksheet and budget narrative is worth 10 points. OVW strongly encourages the use of a spreadsheet like Excel or Numbers to prepare the budget detail worksheet. Then attach that document in Just Grants in the budget section of the application. There is no minimum or maximum budget amount, but project budget worksheets should be reasonable and detailed and based on the resources needed to implement the proposed project in your specific geographic location. For applicants located in the lower 48, the budget must include $30,000 in the travel category for OVW training and technical assistance. And for applicants located in Alaska, the budget must include $35,000 in the travel category for OVW training and technical assistance. That set-aside amount is for the entire 36 months, not per year. For continuation applicants, the set-aside should be $20,000 for applicants in the lower 48 and $25,000 for applicants in Alaska. This amount can be in the budget travel line as a lump sum amount called OVW Approved Training and Technical Assistance. Applicants also may budget expenses in excess of the required amount if they are aware of relevant non-OVW sponsored conferences or training for which they would like permission to use grant funds. All applicants should include sufficient funds to fully provide language access or describe other resources available to ensure meaningful access for persons who are limited in their English proficiency, are deaf or hard of hearing, or individuals with disabilities. The next few slides are going to discuss different aspects of your application that relate to the documents that our financial team, the Grants Financial Management Division, or GFMD, reviews. More specifically, we'll discuss some items that GFMD has identified from prior year applications that could help with expediting our review process. First, I'll go over the pre-award risk assessment then touch on the summary data sheet, and finally provide you with a link to a detailed webinar on how to develop the budget that will be included in your application, and some contact information should you have questions on any of these required documents for our financial team or the budget development. Both of these documents should be prepared as a Word, PDF, or text document, then attached in the proposal narrative section of the application. So first, I'll highlight the pre-award risk assessment survey, which assists GFMD during their pre-award risk assessment review for all applications. Each applicant must prepare a response to all questions, and each question has multiple parts. We've noticed from prior years that applicants do not always fully answer all parts of the questions, which in turn requires GFMD to reach out to the applicant, which may delay award recommendations. Some of the most common issues that we've encountered have been, for example, question number 2, where the applicant indicates that they do indeed have internal policies, but they don't provide a brief list of topics covered in the policies and procedures. Another example of incomplete responses would be question number 3, where the applicant does not provide a brief summary of the organization's process for tracking expenditures, and more specifically, whether or not it tracks budgeted versus actual expenditures. These are just a couple examples, but basically, please make sure you read each piece of each question and provide a full and comprehensive response. Understandably, the individual that is best suited to provide answers to these types of financial questions may not be the same person that is writing or submitting this grant application. You can provide a copy of the questions from the solicitation to the individual best suited to answer them so that the responses can be prepared in advance. Then attach the document to the application in Just Grants in the appropriate section during application submission. Next, let's look at the items identified in the summary data sheet, which is completed by all applicants. Let's look at the questions regarding the single audit. OVW requests that all applicants provide a statement as to whether they have expended $750,000 or more in federal funds during their last fiscal year. If they have, then they indicate that and also specify the end date of their last fiscal year. However, GFMD is finding that applicants do not always include this information and leave out whether or not they have met the threshold or the end date of the last fiscal year is not included. Please ensure all questions from the summary data sheet are responded to. If something does not apply to your tribe or organization, do not skip the question or leave it blank. Respond to the question by specifically stating, this does not apply to the XYZ organization, and then move on to the next question. On this next slide, I will quickly highlight some resources that are available to help you create the budget to be submitted with the application. GFMD has worked to develop a detailed webinar presentation on developing a budget to be submitted with their OVW applications. They want to help reduce any challenges you may face with the budget and make it clear what they look for when they review your budget. This webinar provides some insight as to what OVW financial staff considers during their review. The webinar can be found with a link here, or you can find it under the Budget Information section on the OVW Resources for Applicants page. Additional financial resources you might find helpful are the Uniform Guidance, which can be found at 2 CFR 200, the DOJ Financial Guide, and of course, this program's solicitation. Lastly, the OVW Applicant Resource page has the Solicitation Companion Guide as well as sample budgets, budget narratives, and new this year, fiscal year 24 tribal governments program and tribal governments start sample proposal narratives. We know this can be a lot of information to process, so if you have any questions about the GFMD information discussed, please feel free to contact the GFMD Help Desk. Their contact information is here and on the last slide. This requirement only applies to tribal designees or tribal consortiums. It does not apply to a tribe applying for funding on their own behalf. Document demonstrating authority to apply will be prepared as a Word, PDF, or text document and attached to the application in JustGrants. It is not scored. However, applications from entities applying as a tribal designee or a tribal consortium without this document will be removed from consideration prior to peer review. This document can be in the form of a tribal resolution or a letter on tribal letterhead, signed by the chief executive of the governing body of the tribe. The document should be current and developed within the solicitation open period. As previously mentioned, you can find sample templates for the letter of non-supplanting and the tables for the applicant disclosure of duplication and cost items, along with a form to print and sign for the confidentiality notice on the OVW website under How to Apply. Both the disclosure of lobbying activities and DOJ standard assurances are pre-populated forms within JustGrants. Please read the section of the solicitation carefully. The FY 2024 application submission process is new for some, and there are significant differences from how it used to be done. To best prepare to be successful in submitting a proposal, it will be important to plan ahead. Do not procrastinate until the last few days before the proposal is due. To review the training resources available on JustGrants, including viewing or participating in the application submission webinars, and most significantly, to reach out for assistance to the OVW JustGrants support desk early if you are experiencing technical issues. Applicants experiencing JustGrants technical issues should ensure that they are continuing to develop the proposal while they are working with the OVW JustGrants support desk to address any issues. Applicants must follow the solicitation guidance regarding technical difficulties. Be sure to keep documentation that you did follow the guidance. This will enable you to submit a full proposal by the deadline using an alternate method only if necessary. OVW will take the necessary steps to ensure that applicants are able to submit their applications on time, and will update our submission guidance as necessary and as the due date nears. Some steps, such as registering with the System for Award Management or grants.gov, may take several days or even weeks to complete. There is no way to speed up these registration processes. Therefore, we recommend applicants confirm their registrations are current or begin their registration as soon as possible, but no later than the date suggested in the solicitation. It is the responsibility of the applicant to ensure that they are properly registered with SAM, grants.gov, and JustGrants. Finally, to reiterate, applications must be initiated in grants.gov no later than Wednesday, April 24th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, and the full application package must be submitted in JustGrants no later than Thursday, April 25th, 2024 at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Applications submitted after that time will not be considered for funding. Submitting the application components at least 48 hours before each deadline will enable applicants to receive notice if the submission failed and provide an opportunity to correct the error before the deadline. If you have programmatic questions after reviewing the solicitation in full, such as whether your entity is eligible to apply or if a particular activity is allowable under this program, please email your question to the ovw.tribalgovernment@usdoj.gov mailbox. You can also join our live office hours to speak directly with an OVW grants management specialist every Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time while the solicitation is open. The registration link can be found here on the slide as well as in both solicitations. If you have financial questions, contact the OVW Grants Financial Management Division by emailing ovw.gfmd@usdoj.gov or call 888-514-8556. If you need technical assistance with grants.gov as you are working on the first stage of application submission, please contact the grants.gov applicant support line by emailing support@grants.gov or by calling 800-518-4726. If you need technical assistance with Just Grants as you are submitting your application package, please contact the OVW Just Grants support desk by emailing ovw.justgrantsupport@usdoj.gov or by calling 866-655-4482. Thank you so much for your time and have a great day.